Man, these days it just seems like we can use every shred of good news that we can get our hands on. So today, I've got some great news for you. Unless that is, of course, you are a shareholder of a major pharmacy company, because Amazon just announced a couple of days ago that they are getting into the pharmacy game even further than they already were before. They've just announced Amazon Pharmacy, and it is a game changer. So in this video, we are getting into why Amazon is getting into this industry, number one. Number two, why it's such a game changer and potentially dangerous for the incumbents. And number three, what that means for you and me. Ready? Let's dive in. Before we talk about Amazon, I need to tell you a story about the Cobra Effect. And the Cobra Effect highlights the first law of fiscal policy, which we'll get to in a moment. The Cobra Effect is named after a policy and a story that happened during Britain's rule, their colonial rule over India. There was a problem with too many cobras in India, and so they implemented a new law that said if you turn in a dead cobra, we're going to pay you for it, and we want to incentivize people going around killing all the cobras. Well, this worked for a little while, but pretty soon, people are smart, and so the Indian people realized, hey, there's free money being handed out here. I might as well breed some cobras, and then I can kill the cobras that I'm breeding and go turn them in for money. And so not long after the rule was implemented, you had an immense spike in cobra populations because people just started breeding cobras everywhere so that they could kill them and turn them in for money. So while the intention of the law was to get rid of the cobra population or the cobra overpopulation, what it ended up doing was in fact just exploding the cobra population. This highlights the first law of fiscal policy, which states that anything you subsidize will grow and anything that you tax will decrease. If a government decides it's going to throw money at something, that something will grow. Because people aren't dumb, people are smart. They're going to put their efforts into something that's going to get them more money. This has been the main driver behind the massive increases in cost of housing, education, and healthcare over the last few decades. As the cost of things gets more out of hand, the government says, hey, we need to help people out. We need to throw more money at this, which all that does in turn is increase the costs even more. Now, this has happened more so with healthcare than probably any industry, which has made it very difficult for new competitors to enter the space because the incumbents have such a wide margin competitive moat. But if there was ever a company that was suited to come into an industry that was ripe for disruption and be able to displace incumbents that had been there soaking up government money for years, it's Amazon. Because this has been Amazon's MO for decades. What Amazon does is it looks at an industry or a sector or some sort of business that is just ripe for disruption. So that's step number one. They identify the target. Number two, what they do is they acquire a great company in that space that's not doing exactly what they want to do, but something close. If you look at Amazon's history for years, they're constantly acquiring companies. A notable large one recently was Whole Foods. As they wanted to make their way into the grocery industry and the food distribution, they decided that they needed to acquire a company that already had the infrastructure built out that they could leverage for what they wanted to do themselves with it. Whole Foods still exists, but they used that business that they own now and used the tools that Whole Foods had already built in order to step into that space the way that they wanted to, without having to build all that infrastructure from scratch. Now, a couple of years ago, back in 2017, there was a company called PillPack. Now, PillPack had to do a lot of hard work to get through all of the red tape and jump through the hoops that you have to get to in order to start a business like this. But basically, this PillPack company, what they do is they ship medications and ship your prescriptions to you. And it's more targeted towards people who have lots of prescriptions. It makes sure that people get them and it's prepackaged and easy to relabels, and it removes a lot of the friction and the difficulty in getting all of your prescriptions to you if you need a lot of medications. So back in 2017, Amazon, knowing that they wanted to eventually get into this space, they bought PillPack. I think they paid around $800 million for this company. Now, they didn't do much with it. They kind of left it alone and left it to continue to do what it was doing because it was doing it very well. But over the last few years, they've been making some changes and they've been using a lot of the technology and a lot of the infrastructure, the relationships, the networks that PillPack had built out. And now, as of 2 days ago, Amazon finally launched what they're calling Amazon Pharmacy. Now, this doesn't change PillPack. That stays the same. That service still exists. It's for what it's meant for. But Amazon has taken everything that they want from it and they've duplicated it for use in their new Amazon Pharmacy. Now, this Amazon Pharmacy is extremely easy to use. It's extremely easy to sign up for. You just plug in your name, your information. It's all private, secure. There's no ad sharing or information sharing like they use on their regular website for ad targeting, because there's a lot more regulations and laws with health information sharing. And so this is a separate platform, but it's very easy to go throw in your information, your healthcare provider, your insurance provider, and for your doctor to send over prescriptions to your Amazon Pharmacy now, and they'll ship it to you. There's 2-day shipping just like the rest of Prime. And the best part is they offer massive discounts if you order your medications outside of your insurance, up to 50% off for the name brands and up to 80% off for the generic brands. And they say that a lot of times, many, many times, it's way cheaper to just order these medications, just, outside of your insurance than it is to actually go through the insurance. Now, I know it's probably difficult to see, but on my screen here, and just in case it's too difficult to see, I'll also throw an image of it up. But this is a picture of what Amazon stock did compared to the major pharmacies and medication providers. Now, this news came out 2 days ago, and since then, Amazon is basically flat. They spiked up, about 2.5% on the news, and then the market has kind of taken a little bit of a hit over the last day, and so they're basically flat. But since the announcement, CVS is down almost 10%, just under 10%. Walgreens is down 13.5%. Rite Aid is down 16%, and GoodRx is down 28%. Now, the reason GoodRx is down so much more than the others is simply because they've got a business model that's a little bit similar, and so the fact that Amazon is getting into this space means that it's, big competition just entered for a small company that's probably not going to be able to do as well in the face of a monster competitor like Amazon. Now, this is your classic creative destruction. This is capitalism. This is free markets. This is when competitors come in and they crush the incumbents who have been doing it in a less efficient way or with inferior products. Now, it's called creative destruction for a reason. The society overall benefits severely. There's massive benefits to people who don't have to spend the time going to pharmacies anymore, who don't have to spend the time on the phones making sure that everything gets ordered and sent and shipped and filled the correct way. They don't have to spend the money that they were spending before, because there's massive efficiency leaps here with something like this, and so there's massive money savings. So society overall, from individuals' perspective, the time and the mental energy and the money saved can be now deployed into more either satisfying efforts or productive efforts. But there's real destruction as well. Investors in these companies like CVS and Walgreens and GoodRx, they got hammered. So this is technological deflation. Over time, the natural order of the world is that as innovations happen and as technology increases and as productivity increases, you get more for less. That's the natural force of the world, and it always has been for all of human history. We get more for less. Otherwise, we'd all still be hunter-gatherers. As history progresses, we get more for less. And this is why having central banks and central planners that try and dictate monetary and fiscal policy and control the economy by, fine-tuning little dials and levers, and all they're really doing is just expanding the total supply of money. That's why this is so frustrating. Because the fact that money is printed and the total supply of money increases over time means that the cost of living for everybody goes up over time. So instead of allowing the natural order of things where bad companies and inferior products fail over time, and better companies and better products survive and grow over time, and the benefit to everybody is that you get more for less over time, instead of that happening, everything just gets more and more and more expensive over time. Now, this is not the Federal Reserve's legal mandate. The Federal Reserve is by law required. Congress set their mandate to seek stable prices. But for years now, what the Federal Reserve has done is saying, hey, in order to make sure we don't have any deflation whatsoever, we need to overprint and make sure we're getting at least 2% inflation because we're really scared of deflation, even though that's the natural way of the world and it's beneficial for everybody long term. It incentivizes the right behavior like saving, and it disincentivizes the wrong behavior like over-leveraging. But guess what? Even if the Federal Reserve was sticking to their congressional mandate of seeking stable prices, that still robs people of the natural deflation that is occurring. Because if your cost of living is staying the same, but things should technically be getting cheaper because there is real technological innovation happening and there is real efficiency growth, and things are actually getting cheaper for society, but not for you. That means all that additional purchasing power that you would have had over time, that's all being transferred to the state. And that's the real problem behind all of this, is that the growth and the increases in wealth that would have been shared by society is just being transferred to the state so that they can spend that how they please and line their coffers along the way. Nevertheless, this is yet another sign that Amazon is just a killer company and they're going to continue to do well for a very long time. This is their MO. They look at an industry that's ripe for disruption, and then they seek a target, they find a target, and they buy a good asset that's doing something similar to what they want to do. Then they can leverage all of the innovation, all the technology, all the infrastructure that company has spent years building up. They don't have to do that from scratch, and they deploy it in the way that they wanted to originally. It's an amazing business plan. They've been doing it successfully for years. They'll continue to do it successfully for years. And it just means that we get better products and services going forward. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Amazon and Jeff Bezos and the reasons behind why some of the decisions are made in the history, I loved the biography on Bezos called The Everything Store. It's a fantastic story. It's very, very interesting. It's a quick read. And kind of a side note, he's got a very, very similar story, personality, character to Elon Musk, actually. If you read Elon Musk's biography, they've got a lot of really interesting and kind of weird similarities there. So that's beside the point, though. If you want to learn more about Amazon and Bezos, that's a fantastic resource. I highly recommend that book. As always, really appreciate you guys. You're the best. Have a great day.